Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're tackling something that's both ancient and totally relevant right now, yoga. Whether you're already hooked or just curious about all those Instagram poses, we've got some interesting stuff to share. Did you know yoga's not just about stretching? It can actually boost your mental well-being and even ease chronic pain.
Hold on, yoga? A cure-all? I'm always a little wary of that kind of claim. I mean, seriously? How does touching your toes supposedly fix everything from your back to your brain?
I get where you're coming from, Michelle. But the science behind yoga is actually pretty compelling. There's this book, Science of Yoga, by Ann Swanson, and it basically connects the age-old wisdom of yoga with modern research. It explains how yoga affects your body, your mind, and even your stress levels. It's not just about being flexible. It's about finding balance in your whole system, physically and mentally.
Okay, you've piqued my interest. So, what are we actually going to dive into today?
We're going to break it down into 3 key areas. First, we'll look at the physical benefits. It's not just about contorting yourself, but about actually building strength and improving your health. Then, we'll explore the mental side, how yoga can quiet your mind, lower stress, and maybe even make you a more centered person. And finally, we'll get practical with tips on how to incorporate yoga into your daily routine. Wherever you're starting, it's about taking the science of yoga and making it work for you, one breath at a time.
So we're taking yoga from the yoga mat into our minds and then integrating it into everyday life. It sounds interesting. Okay, I'm game. Lead the way.
So, let's dive right into the physical benefits of yoga, because understanding what it does to your body really sets the stage for everything else we're going to talk about. It's not just about gentle stretching and relaxation, you know? Yoga actually reshapes how your body functions, especially when we're talking about the musculoskeletal system.
Okay, muscles and bones, I'm listening. I get that holding poses like Warrior 2 can make your legs burn, but are you saying it's actually building strength?
Absolutely. Warrior 2, for example, doesn't just burn, it engages major muscle groups all at once. Your quads, hamstrings, glutes, even your core. It's like isometric strength training, which builds endurance and stabilizes your joints. Over time, this balanced engagement improves not just flexibility, but full body resilience. And here's a kicker. These poses are especially crucial for older adults. Studies show they enhance balance and mobility, which really helps prevent falls and injuries.
So you're saying you're not just becoming more limber, you're actually fortifying your body. But what about deeper stuff like bones? I thought yoga was all about avoiding high-impact moves. Can it really help with something like osteoporosis?
That's a great question. And yes, it can. The idea that yoga only works on soft tissue like muscles and tendons is old news. Research has shown that weight-bearing poses stimulate osteoblast activity. Those are the bone-building cells, responsible for increasing bone density. I read a study that had older participants practicing yoga 3 times a week for a year, and their bone density improved measurably.
Wait, so bones respond to holding yoga poses the same way they do to, like, weightlifting? That's a major win for people who can't handle those high-impact workouts.
Exactly. It's a low-risk, sustainable way to counteract age-related bone loss. It's also worth noting that no serious injuries were reported during that study. That safety factor really makes yoga stand out as a viable long-term tool for physical health.
All right, I'll give it points for strength. But beyond bones and muscles, how does yoga go from physical workout to something deeper, like managing stress or even rewiring how we emotionally respond to life?
That's where the nervous system comes in. Yoga's effects extend to the autonomic nervous system, which regulates your body's stress responses. Picture this: downward-facing dog, not just a stretch, but an inversion that lowers your head below your heart. That position activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest mode.
So if I'm following, it literally shifts your body out of fight or flight into chill mode. But is it just about the pose? Or do other elements, like breathing techniques, play a role too?
Definitely both. The physical posture helps, but pranayama, yoga's controlled breathing, has a profound effect. For example, slow, deep breathing stimulates the vagus nerve, which directly reduces your heart rate and blood pressure. Studies have shown that regular practice can even reduce cortisol, the stress hormone, by about 30%.
That's interesting, especially the breathing part. I can see myself incorporating that when I'm stuck in meetings that should have been emails. But let's go deeper. What's this about yoga rewiring the brain?
You're talking about neuroplasticity. It's one of yoga's most fascinating benefits. Practices like mindful breathing and meditation have been shown to reduce amygdala activity. That's the part of your brain tied to fear and stress responses. When that activity decreases and the prefrontal cortex, the rational decision-making area, strengthens, you essentially become better equipped to handle pressure and stress.
So yoga's kind of like training your brain to pause before it freaks out. That's pretty huge, especially today when stress feels more like the norm than the exception. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's practical too. For instance, participants in one study who incorporated breathing techniques reported feeling calmer and less reactive in high-pressure situations, during exams, public speaking, or even personal conflicts.
Okay, I like where this is going, but let's talk about something everyone worries about at some point. The heart. Yoga tends to get pegged as stress relief, but how does it translate into actual heart health?
That connection is crystal clear. First and foremost, yoga lowers blood pressure thanks to pranayama and the activation of the parasympathetic nervous system. For example, one study followed individuals with hypertension who practiced a mix of asanas and pranayama for 6 months. By the end of it, their blood pressure dropped significantly, on par with the results you'd expect from medication.
Okay, medication-level results. Now you have my attention. But what about managing stress long-term? I've read that heart rate variability, or HRV, is a key measure of cardiovascular health. Does yoga affect that too?
It does. HRV measures your heart's ability to adapt to stress, and consistent yoga practice improves HRV. That's a sign of better emotional resilience and a reduced risk of cardiac events like heart attacks. It's essentially showing us how yoga strengthens the connection between the physical and psychological aspects of health.
Clearly, yoga's heart smart. But let me bring up one more physical aspect. How does it handle inflammation? That seems like a big topic, especially with so many conditions tied to it.
Oh, it's a huge topic. Chronic inflammation is linked to conditions like arthritis, cardiovascular disease, even depression. Yoga has been shown to reduce inflammation markers like C-reactive protein. For instance, in studies with people who had rheumatoid arthritis, those practicing yoga twice weekly experienced reduced joint pain, stiffness, and those inflammation markers, all in just 8 weeks.
And it's not just the physical impact. Syncing breath and movement seems to add this mental empowerment too. You're not just a patient dealing with pain, you're actively participating in your own healing.
Exactly, that's the magic of it. It's a holistic approach. Physical poses improve joint mobility and blood circulation, while breathing and mindfulness alleviate both the physical and mental toll of inflammation. It reinforces the idea that healing isn't just about fixing symptoms, it's about regaining your ability to thrive.
Alex, that's a lot to take in, but I have to admit, yoga's science-backed benefits seem more legit than I initially gave it credit for.
Understanding these physiological benefits naturally leads us to explore how yoga fosters mental and emotional well-being. I mean, building strength or reducing pain is great, but yoga really shines when we look at how it transforms our mental states. Something that's so relevant, right, in today's crazy high-stress world.
Okay, so we're moving from those Warrior II poses and improved blood flow into, let me guess, some kind of brain rewiring situation? How does this even work, practically speaking?
It's all about neuroplasticity, which is the brain's ability to adapt and, rewire itself over time. Yoga supports this by combining movement, breath work, and mindfulness. This creates lasting structural and functional changes in the brain. For example, studies show that consistent mindfulness practices, a core element of yoga, actually reduce the size of the amygdala, that's the brain's fear center, while strengthening the prefrontal cortex, which handles decision-making and emotional regulation.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, we're shrinking the part of the brain that panics and building up the part that says, hey, take a breath. Let's think this through. It's like having a mental coach, right?
Exactly. The combination of breathwork and mindful movement creates a kind of feedback loop. Take pranayama, for example, those breath control techniques like ujjayi or victorious breath. Elongating the exhale stimulates your vagus nerve, telling your body it doesn't need to be in fight or flight. So over time, this retrains your brain to respond with calm, not stress.
I can see the theory, but what about when you're dealing with more intense situations? How does this help someone recovering from, say, serious trauma?
Well, that's where yoga's impact on emotional regulation is key. Trauma survivors often experience heightened amygdala activity, leaving their nervous systems stuck in hyperreactivity. Practices like alternate nostril breathing or nadi shodhana help regulate emotions by balancing the brain's hemispheres and calming the nervous system. There are real cases to support this. It's not just theory.
Okay, give me an example. It's always easier to understand with a story.
Right, so one participant in a yoga therapy program for PTSD described finding an anchor in her practice. She said, "Every time I focused on the breath, I felt a quieting of the chaos in my mind." And over weeks of consistent practice, she reported fewer emotional outbursts and a greater sense of control. The transformation is really personal, you know? It's not a one-size-fits-all solution. It offers tools individuals can tailor to their specific experiences.
That's pretty compelling. The idea that breathwork could take the reins from hyperreactivity? But let's zoom out a bit. How does yoga help someone without trauma, but with, say, everyday stress? Like those looming deadlines, packed schedules, endless meetings?
So for everyday stress, yoga essentially builds stress resilience. Picture this. In child's pose or savasana, your body signals your brain that it's safe. This is mediated by the vagus nerve, calming the physical symptoms of stress like a racing heart or tense muscles. Over time, this rest and digest state becomes easier to access, even, outside of yoga practice.
So it's muscle memory for staying calm. You mentioned that consistent practice lowers cortisol levels. Are we talking minor reductions or something significant?
Quite significant, actually. A meta-analysis showed that practicing yoga for just 3 months can reduce cortisol by like 30%. That's huge, because high cortisol levels are linked to so many modern health problems, from sleep issues to weakened immunity. Yoga turns down the volume on that chronic stress response, helping people feel more grounded.
It's like giving your brain a software update and deleting all the unnecessary panic files. So is the mindfulness aspect of yoga all about the breath, or do the physical poses contribute as well?
The physical poses are integral. They ground the mindfulness practice in tangible bodily sensations. For instance, progressive muscle relaxation, a technique often used in yoga, asks you to tense and release different muscle groups sequentially. It's deeply physical, but it also trains your brain to focus on the present moment, breaking cycles of worry or rumination.
So it's more than just sit still and think about your breathing. These poses help you actively stay connected to the moment. Let me bring this back to something measurable: performance. I recently read about mindfulness training improving focus. Does yoga have that same effect?
Absolutely, and we have studies to back that up. In one experiment, a group of students preparing for high-stakes exams practiced mindfulness-based yoga for 15 minutes daily over 6 weeks. Compared to their peers, they experienced less anxiety and showed improved concentration, which led to higher exam scores. Focusing on their breathing and movement allowed them to reset their minds during pressure.
Higher exam scores just from a bit of yoga, that's a pretty compelling argument. It seems like yoga is less about doing one thing really well and more about creating a ripple effect, helping your mind, body, and emotions support each other.
Exactly. Its holistic nature is what makes yoga so transformative. By enhancing neuroplasticity, regulating emotions, and building stress resilience, yoga equips practitioners to navigate life's complexities with a sense of calm and balance. The mental and emotional benefits are deeply intertwined with the physical practices, making it more than just, simple exercise. It becomes a framework for thriving.
Definitely a lot to think about. It's like yoga's not just the workout you do, but the way you live after you get off the mat.
So, understanding yoga's mind-body connection, let's dive into how we can weave these practices into our daily lives for overall well-being. Taking yoga from the studio into our everyday routines is where its real magic happens. From supporting prenatal health to aiding in healthy aging, yoga truly shines when tailored to personal needs.
Okay, we're moving from theory to actually doing it. Yoga as a daily toolkit, not just a class we attend. Where do we start?
Let's begin with prenatal yoga. Pregnancy is a life-changing experience, but it comes with challenges, both physical and emotional. Prenatal yoga directly addresses these, offering specific poses to ease discomfort and prep for childbirth. For instance, Malasana, or garland pose, helps to open the pelvis and relieve lower back pain.
Yeah, lower back pain seems like a given during pregnancy. So it's not just about immediate relief, but also getting ready for labor, right?
Precisely. These poses offer more than just immediate comfort. They're designed to prepare the body for labor. Also, prenatal yoga places significant emphasis on breathing techniques, such as Ujjayi breath, to help manage anxiety and pain during contractions. Imagine a study showing that expectant mothers who practiced prenatal yoga reported reduced pelvic pain and stress, and their babies had better health outcomes.
So, prenatal yoga benefits both mom and baby. But what about those chaotic movie delivery scenes? How does someone actually use yoga in that moment?
There's a great example of a mother-to-be who used yoga during labor. She felt overwhelmed by the contractions, but by focusing on the breathing techniques she had practiced, she transformed what could have been a panic-filled experience into a calm, controlled one. She even mentioned how staying present helped her navigate the experience with clarity and less fear.
That's impressive. A real-world application in a high-pressure situation. But let's consider people who aren't expecting. What if someone is dealing with chronic issues like back pain or anxiety?
That's where yoga therapy comes into play. It's highly individualized, combining movement, breath work, and meditation to address specific concerns. Picture a professional with chronic back pain from sitting at a desk all day, utilizing poses such as cat-cow for spinal mobility or gentle twists for flexibility. Along with mindful relaxation in Savasana, a customized sequence can do wonders. In one case, after only a few months of personalized yoga therapy, the individual reported reduced pain and an improved sense of overall balance.
And without needing painkillers. But chronic pain is one thing. How does yoga address something as abstract as mental health? Anxiety isn't usually solved by just stretching.
That's true, but keep in mind that yoga is more than just physical. For anxiety, breath control techniques like alternate nostril breathing, or Nadi Shodhana, can shift the nervous system out of a stressed fight-or-flight state. There's also evidence that these practices can lower cortisol levels and improve sleep quality. One participant with chronic stress-related insomnia began practicing this technique every day and saw improvements in her sleep and energy levels within weeks.
So it's like a reset button, snapping the body out of stress mode. And it's not just limited to physical or psychological issues right? Yoga spans across all age groups?
Absolutely. For children, yoga introduces focus and emotional regulation. Schools that incorporate yoga into their daily routines have reported reductions in anxiety and even improved academic performance. Picture a classroom where children begin the day balancing in tree pose. It's not just adorable. It's developing mindfulness habits early on.
And for adults juggling work, family, and the craziness of modern life, I imagine yoga helps with stress overload?
Exactly. Poses such as reclining bound angle pose or breathwork practices counteract stress-induced fatigue. There's even a case of someone experiencing work-related burnout using yoga to lower their blood pressure and regain energy. After only a few weeks, Their physical markers improved along with their emotional state.
Okay, so it's calm for kids, balance for the overworked. What about our older listeners? How can yoga help them as they age?
For seniors, yoga focuses on mobility, strength, and confidence. Low-impact poses like warrior eye improve muscle tone, while balance poses like chair pose help prevent falls. In fact, clinical trials indicate that yoga can increase balance by 30% in older adults. Beyond the physical benefits, meditation principles foster emotional resilience, which helps seniors navigate life transitions with a sense of peace.
I like that, maintaining stability both physically and mentally as you age. Let's bring it full circle for anyone listening who might be thinking, I have a unique situation. What if yoga isn't safe or adaptable for me?
And that's why professional guidance is so important. For example, someone with arthritis might benefit more from chair yoga or using bolsters to reduce strain. Or for heart patients, advanced inversions might be off limits, but alternatives, like legs up the wall, can still improve circulation and relaxation without posing a risk.
So, the key takeaway is that yoga isn't a one-size-fits-all solution. It adapts to individual needs.
Exactly. Whether you're navigating pregnancy, dealing with a chronic condition, or simply aging gracefully, yoga is adaptable, scalable, and transformative when applied thoughtfully and with professional guidance. So, to bring it all together, we've really dug into how yoga affects our bodies, minds, and lives on a pretty deep level. I mean, from building physical strength and flexibility to actually changing your brain for better emotional control, and even helping with things like chronic pain or stress. Yoga's clearly more than just a workout, right?
Absolutely. And we talked about how adaptable it is, strengthening bones for older adults, lowering cortisol for those of us dealing with daily stress, and even preparing pregnant women for childbirth. It's almost like yoga is this customized toolkit for improving your life, generally speaking.
Exactly. And that's what's so amazing about it. Yoga's not just about physical health. It's a way to find emotional and mental balance, which, let's face it, we all need to navigate the modern world with a bit more calm, clarity, and, dare I say, strength.
Okay, so here's what I'm taking away from all this. Yoga isn't about forcing yourself into crazy poses. It really boils down to connecting with yourself, your breathing, your body, your thoughts, and learning to align them for a healthier and more conscious way of living.
Exactly right. So to our listeners, whether you're super experienced with yoga or just wondering what it's all about, think about how these exercises might improve your well-being. Start small, be consistent, and keep in mind, it's not about being perfect, it's about improving over time.
Yeah, no need for anyone to turn themselves into a human pretzel. Consider this your open invitation to try yoga. And maybe your body and mind will get some of the good stuff we talked about today.
Until our next podcast, take a deep breath, stay in the moment, and enjoy wherever you're going. Thanks for tuning in.